Hey guys, I'm back in today to show you how to reassemble your S13 Power Steering Rack for a 240. I will be showing you how to reassemble it so you can as well. Better watch. Alright, so here I am back with the clean power steering rack. Sandblasted, got the insides all cleaned out. Yeah, now it's like brand new. Got this all polished up so it's all newer looking, I guess. So it's a smooth surface for all the new gaskets to come in contact with. I got this bearing all cleaned up, so now I can, now it spins really nicely. So I'll be showing you how to assemble this and get it back into working order. So I gotta put this spacer back in. This spacer sits about, I think it's like right here, I wanna say, or right here in the tube. Yep, it is definitely right here. So I gotta take this spacer and put it back in this hole. That's gonna be a tricky part. Whoop. Alright, well, that was much easier than I expected. So there's that. So this gasket goes on this shaft. I don't know how I'm gonna put that on. Oh, that's gonna be a little tricky. So there is that. Then I gotta get this other gasket on, which goes on this side. But before I do that, there is an O-ring in the kit. And this O-ring goes around this block, I guess you would call it. Yeah, it's pretty simple to put in. I mean, you can't really mess that up. Then there is another, like, it's like a plastic composite ring, and that also goes, and I am not sure how in the flipping man. There we go. Look at that. Now I got her on. Now we're cooking in peanut oil. Alright. So now that's on there. Well, that's actually way better than the original seal. Freaking sweet. So that's on there. We got that on there. Now we need to get this other gasket on there. Kind of the same one as the other side, just different direction. So how this essentially works is you got your rack slide that goes in here and the gear shaft that goes in. Your steering shaft spins this, which then spins this, which moves your rack into manual mode. The power steering comes into play when, based on the valving in this bad boy, it'll tell fluid to either go on this side or go on this side. And this help amplifies, so when fluid goes on this side, it'll help push the rod that way. And if fluid goes on this side, it helps push the rod that way. So that's how the power steering works in this setup. Now I just got to take this and put it in here. So I just made sure I lube this so it goes on, you know, over nicely. Not too much because then it will get into your fluid. And we all know that's something you don't want. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a socket, like I did before. I'm going to take a socket and I'm going to punch her in there. So I'm using a 27 mil socket, and essentially what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reef it in there pretty hard and hope for the best. Okay, let me get anywhere there. Okay, got it in there, but it's not in, not sure if you're gonna be able to see that, but it's not in there perfectly. Now the next step is to line up those gears. And then from that, so this needs grease all in this joint. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to grease this up. I'm going to grease all this up. Get it all. I went with the multi-purpose Ames oil grease. I don't know. It's supposed to be a little bit higher performing than your standard grease, I guess. I'm pretty sure any grease is going to work just fine. But yeah, make sure you get this all lubed up, because this is where metal on metal contact and metal on metal create a lots of friction. And grease helps keep temps cool and from parts prematurely wearing. And that is what I am currently doing to keep it from prematurely wearing. So I would definitely highly recommend that some sort of grease is put in when you completely do a rebuild, because I stripped off all the previous sludge grease, whatever you want to call it, I don't know. It was a mixture of oil and grease, so that's kind of why I also did a rebuild. And I'm just making sure I get the grease in those bearings. Oh, now she moves real nice. But yep, make sure your shaft is nice and lubed, and stick her right in. But I guess before I get a little too excited, shoot. There is this little bad boy, and I think that it's just set in there. Again, I'm going to grease this up because these are freaking harder than heck to get in. I'm just going to make sure she's all lubed up for a nice install. And then just making sure it's seated in there nicely. This bushing, actually, or gasket, whatever you want to call it, went in actually super easy. So then now I'm just going to clean it out. And then what I'm going to do is then I'm going to take this bad boy. Oop, I don't get that smell again. So then now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this in there, find where it kind of lines up. I may have to spin this shaft a little bit. That went in kind of nicely. Oh yeah. So now that's in there. So now, since I got that all in there, I'm going to take this towel and I'm going to clean off this grease here, because the O-rings go in. The O-rings got to go in yet. That help keep the valving proportional, I guess that's what you want to call it. But the kit comes with 4 O-rings, and what you do is you just take them and put them on like that other blue one. But hopefully these go on much. Oh yeah, these go on way easier. Not sure if that's a good thing yet. But these do go on way better. Maybe it's just because I know how to put them on now. Make sure you take your time with these because these are small, and I feel they would be super easy to break. When I was removing these O-rings, gaskets, whatever you want to call these, seals, I guess. When I was removing the OEM ones, I couldn't figure out, I thought they were rubber originally, and they're not. It's like a composite plastic type of O-ring. So, I mean, which is all fine. I mean, that's no big issue. But what I had to do was I had to take this, I took a small flathead screwdriver and I put it in the crack and I tapped it with a hammer, and that just easily broke them apart and I pulled it right off. I did that for all the O-rings actually. As you can see, here's the, I don't know if these are OEM, I'm assuming they're OEM, but yeah, they're just super easy. Didn't take me more than like 2 minutes. It's so much easier to disassemble than it is to assemble, which is kind of cool, I guess, but at the same time kind of expected. Yeah, so now this cap has got to go on, and I cleaned this cap out, made sure it's all fancy schmancy. So now this cap has got to go on, and how I'm going to do that, well, there's an O-ring too. Can't get ahead of myself. There's a bigger O-ring. It's a circle O-ring. You can buy this kit. I got it from Rock Auto. I deal with Rock Auto a lot of the times because they do have fast shipping, and their parts seem to be fine. I mean, you can get them at any auto parts store, I guess, but this being a Nissan part, none of the stores local to me kind of knew what that was, so I was kind of stranded, so I had to go online to buy it. So in here, there's this gasket, and this rebuild kit does include a new gasket, which is right here, and essentially that goes in right there. But now you're probably wondering, well, this gasket O-ring is too big for this hole. It's actually not. It's kind of shaped like a C. I don't know if you can see it, but it's kind of shaped like a C, and this outer lip goes, it sits in a channel in here, so you just push it in, and that's how that how this O-ring works. But to get to that rubber gasket O-ring, there's a bearing in here, and it is stamped in, so it's sealed. So the only way to take that bearing out is to essentially ruin it. And after inspecting this gasket O-ring thing, I thought it was good enough. I mean, didn't seem like there were any issues, so I just put it all, I'm using that gasket. I mean, you can change it out if you want. I just didn't see a need to, so that's why I went the way I did with it. Also, so then, I'm not sure what these bolts are supposed to be spec'd to, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to anti-seize these because, well, actually, I'm not a big anti-seize type of person. I'm usually the person that just takes it out and puts it right back in. But since I'm rebuilding this car, every nut and bolt are coming apart. I'm going to anti-seize it just so I don't have to deal with potential rusting in the future or hard bolts to get out just for maintenance purposes. I'm just using a Permatex aluminum anti-seize lubricant. There's like 3 different kinds, and it all depends on your application again. So I just put this anti-seize all on this bolt. I stick it in. That's what she said. So I'm going to do that to all 3 of these. This helps with torquing it. This gets a proper torque spec, or closer torque spec I should say, because the bolt can move freely and it doesn't bind up against the other metal. This is probably the proper way you're supposed to do a torque spec. So I got all these bad boys lubricated and in. So now what I gotta do is tighten these bad boys up and should be ready to go. So look at that. It is. So right now I'm just putting them in. I'm not I ain't speccing it down. I will spec it down. Actually, I don't even know the specs right now, so I have to look it up online. So I'm just, finger tightening it down. I mean, I guess tight is tight for something like this, but there's a gasket, so I tend to torque something down if there's a gasket, because a gasket can get over smushed or under smushed and could cause potential leaks. So I got that finger tight, got the bolts anti-seized. Now the next step, what I gotta do is I gotta put this piece in. This was the random piece that fell out in the previous thing, or in the previous video. So I'm just gonna lube this up because plastic on metal, just I don't like. So we're gonna get this nice and lubed up. Make sure it's all greased up. Not sure if it's supposed to be lubed or not, but man, what can a little grease do? It can't hurt anything. So got that in. Now what I want to do, there was a nickel looking thing that came off of this, and this will go in next. So put that in there, and then from that, essentially a spring one in there, all fine and dandy, just like that. Speaking of grease, I'll put some grease on that. Just contact on contact, doesn't hurt. So then with that, then there are these 2 washer things. Make sure you don't lose these. And put that into play. And then from that, take this and just put her in. So there's that. Holy nuts. So now, since I got this all greased up, now I'm gonna just get it all lubed up nicely, this outer shaft, because this outer shaft doesn't see any oil, or power steering fluid, I should say. So I guess the more grease, can't really say the better, because then it just becomes a mess, but I would make sure you get this all nice and greased up. This isn't going to be exposed because there will be a rubber boot on it, and so it'll keep it from getting dirty. Potentially should keep it from getting dirty. So got that done. Now what I want to do is okay, there's that. So now the next thing I gotta do is I gotta get this on. Alright, there you guys go. She's on. She's ready to rock and roll. So what I gotta do is I gotta push this in, because remember I said this gasket over here was a little crooked. So I gotta seat that back against this nut that I just installed. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna push this shaft all the way through, because that middle stopper is going to push that rubber gasket O-ring up against this. So I'm just going to take this, push it through, make sure it gets fully open, and once it's fully out, and once it's fully out, it will be perfectly in line, and I can move it back and forth at a full range of motion. All right, there we go. Push it all the way in. Push it all the way in. So now I'm going to push it back, and now I should have a completely sealed power steering rack. So the next step is going to be to close this bad boy up. The inner connecting rods. I believe I got these from a I don't remember what car I got these for. These are not a stock 240 arm. I want to say like a 350Z, but I can't remember, and I don't want to give false information. The covers installed to protect the dirt and grime. Alright, so I'm going to take these things off because I don't think these are doing much anything for me right now, but creating a mess. So, yep, pretty standard. You just take this and wheel this on in there. But before I do that, remember how I said I'm not an anti-seize guy? Yep, that's me. You see, I kind of forgot. So I'm just going to put this on just to prevent any future issues. It's not required, but it does make life a bit easier in putting this all back together, or taking it all back apart and putting it back together. So I'm just doing that by hand. It's an AC Delco part. I don't know, there's a GM part number on it, but it's not from a GM vehicle. I thought it was like a 300 ZX because those are the shorter tie rods, or the inner tie rods. So the reason I went with shorter inner tie rods was due to the fact that I built my own front subframe. So now you're probably wondering why I went with a shorter tie rod. I think it was the 300ZX, I could be wrong. I ordered these like 2 weeks ago, so I don't remember. The reason I went with the shorter tie rods, inner tie rods, was because when I mounted my motor into the car, I actually built my own tubular subframe, and this subframe actually moved my power steering rack. It actually moved the rack forward, I think it was. Yes. It moved it, no, it moved it backwards, which then brought the power steering rack more in line with the wheel angle. There was a reason behind that. That was to get more torque out of the power steering rack. So I just relocated it back a little bit, and by moving it back, I actually, because originally, hold on, let me get this screwed in. Okay, so originally the car sits like this. So the car sits like this, and the way it originally was these were bent back just a hair. These were just angled off. So they were angled like this more so at the to the wheels. So I just moved the rack back, and when I moved the rack back, so I moved it back about, I don't even know how many inches I moved it back, but I moved it back, and then it brought it perfectly straight. And bringing it perfectly straight puts more torque, gets more torque out of this and puts it to the wheel with the same amount of effort as before, or you can say less effort for the same torque, I guess. Yeah, that works. So I just relocated the rack, and then by bringing this rack backwards, that straightened those out, which actually pushed both wheels like this. And I shortened everything up as short as I can get it, and it was still like that. And I was like, well, that's not going to do its justice. I'm going to need it to be straighter, because obviously that's a perfect alignment if it's straight. So that's the reason I went with the shorter inner tie rods. They look great. I mean, they look of the same. They are actually thicker than the OEM ones. God, these things are so garbage. But these are actually thinner than the new ones I got, and I believe these are from a 300ZX, like a 93 or something. Moog. I got these Moog parts. And what these do is that these are the rubber. Who needs instructions? I don't read them anyways, as we know. So this is pretty self-explanatory. You just take this, get it right. Do the same thing to the other side. Again, rubber cover, more instructions. And there's a fancy little, oh shoot. Oh no. Houston, I think I put the, I bet you I put the zip tie in there. But same process again. Just gonna take this. Dude, that shouldn't be this. Oh, nice. shouldn't be this difficult to get a rubber gap or rubber cover on. There. Look at that. Okay. Sucked in a little bit there. Perfect. So there's that. Bada boom, bada bing. So that's in. Oh, nuts. I'm really thinking I put. I didn't. Huh. God damn it. Come on. Dude, it really shouldn't be this fucking difficult. There we go. Okay. Well, there's that, there's that, there's that, there's that. I'm gonna wait for those. I guess they didn't pack me another zip tie. Okay, cool, whatever. Got these fancy little dust protectors on. Cool. Now, the cool thing is, where are we here? SPL Pro Suspension. Decided to go with them, just like I'm doing with all the rest of my suspension arms. They're made in the USA. Heard a lot of great reviews about them. Kind of a fanboy of them, which doesn't help the situation. But, oh well. So, just screw that nut on, and I come in hot with the SPL suspension arm, outer tie rod, and put that on. I'm not sure where that's going to really sit. Someplace. Probably someplace in this neck of the woods. I'll just finger tighten it for now. And that is how you guys assemble a S13 Power Steering Rack. I believe S14s are the same thing, and possibly even S15s. If not, they're very similar. If you got any questions, comments, make sure you post it in the video or in the comment section below. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. But other than that, in the meantime, peace.